I think it's safe to say,
I'm speaking today with Mark Pallins. He is Executive Director of Enterprise Solutions with Merck. Mark, welcome.
Thank you.
Mark, why do you think so many multinational companies have failed to get beyond node-to-node planning?
Interesting question. I think there are several answers to that. Most globalized corporations currently are a set of mergers. So multiple ERP systems, multiple data sets, multiple philosophies. And again, ever and ever, I think our supply chains are getting more real-time, getting more complicated, and especially I think talking about pharmaceutical companies, the regulations on top of its, I think, geographical complexities make it like a hard burden to get beyond this node to node. So what you see is that many of the corporations are settling on like good ERP systems, optimizing their nodes, and as a result, I think thinking about like the sum of these nodes make a good supply chain. Whereas I think the new learnings and also the new digital opportunities are presenting, I think, a broad new set of opportunities to go end to end and beyond the nodes. And you'll see that it's not like 1 + 1 is 2, the node plus node. I think actually 1 + 1 can be 2.5 if properly executed. And I think that is in a nutshell what I see.
Well, what is Merck doing specifically to overcome the challenge?
Well, I think I started this observation not generically, obviously from our own backyard. We have literally a very vast network of both internal sites as contract manufacturers, and as well we're working with a large set of distributors, bringing our life-saving medications to our patients. What we're seeing there is if we truly want to be customer-focused, patient-focused, it's not only about like being reactive, running your cycle node to node, monthly cycles. No, the demand keeps switching, and you want your manufacturing, your packaging in our case, and then the bulk manufacturing to be as aligned as possible, as fast as possible, moving there. So what Merck tried to do is literally lift the planning outside of the node to nodes and create a DRP layer on top of our traditional ERP processing and planning, and look at planning not as like, okay, a sales order, purchase order, sales order, purchase order model, but basically truly end to end and optimizing the way we get to our patients.
DRP, demand requirements planning?
Yes, demand requirement planning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Over enterprise resource planning, which is ERP.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you feel that you've actually achieved the dream of an end-to-end view of your supply chain, or are you still on that journey?
Wow, we're definitely on the journey. I think the philosophy we're really good at the moment. We know what we want to achieve. I think we're also tied nicely into now even the newest Internet of Things, utilizing robotic process automation. We're not at all doing it, but the thoughts are getting there. But taking a step back, what we're seeing now, we got the processes in place. On top of that, we have the benefit of Merck has implemented over the last decade, basically a single instant SAP across all of our manufacturing sites, all of our distribution facilities, and all of our commercial entities. So truly giving us a benefit. And even then, we're still struggling with data, and I think we'll come back to that later. But what we see now, on top of that, we needed a end-to-end planning. And there's where Kinexus and Rapid Response came in to fill that gap. And so we are in deployment. So system-wise, we're good. Process-wise, we're getting there. People and skill sets transitioning from the old node to node to that end-to-end is a whole different challenge, which we're basically trying to tackle together with our valuable colleagues.
So at this point on the journey, what specific benefits have you already begun to realize?
Several. So obviously each of these projects, you cannot only look into the vast future to have a hypothetical benefit. So there are 3 areas of main benefits. The first one is obviously inventory. When we started this project, we were, versus our peer companies, not amongst the top ranked. As we started implementing these end-to-end tools and creating visibility across our supply chains, we saw where we had the wrong inventory positions. We saw what we had the wrong replenishment models in place. So actually we went after the low-hanging fruit by just creating visibility. So that got us basically up to where I would say we're safely now in the middle of the pack versus our peer companies, and I think we're gaining traction. So that is on the inventory. Most importantly as well, since we now have that end-to-end visibility, alignment on discards. Discards is a big thing as well in pharma world. And we are actually well on our track to reduce 50% of our discards. It was very interesting that a quarter ago I had a challenge by one of our senior sponsors, like, we're not seeing the discard. And my answer was, because of our supply chains that are so lengthy because of the lead times, it's going to trail a decision. And he said, well, I'm interested to see the next quarter, because we're predicting that the quarter following, we would see our what we call inventory of questionable value go lower. And I'm happy to report, actually, that it did significantly drop the last quarter. And the projection is looking very promising for our target. So very interesting too, I think, directly financial benefits. But what most importantly, and is the change of the way we're working. So our planners, being transactional firefighters, are moving slowly but surely into that what I call PhD of parameter management. Moving to the higher level, and truly what a planner should do, not chasing a truck, finding an issue after it occurred. We're now trying to run diagnostics through our end-to-end planners. So that, I think, benefit, we're just on the start of it. It's not ever.
Okay, so you touched upon a very important thing. A lot of companies who go through a journey like this will end up saying, you know what, technology was the easy part. The hard part is people. The hard part is change management. So how can you assure enough flexibility in your project team and the acceptance of your individuals to take on these new and larger roles? How do you approach that issue?
Excellent question. One we have struggled with, and one that we actually have learned a lot about. Like, we started traditional project organization, design something, try to implement it, buy-in questions. I think I can use all the buzzwords here. What now seems to be really intensely working is we had a small group that designed the philosophy. We went out for it together with Rapid Response and our other partners, drove the solution, but then started not just basically rolling it out, but started to involve our users, our planners across the world, what we call in conclaves. We put planners and actual business owners in a room and told them, like, this is the global operating model we're working in. This is what we call the higher level process map. But we all know the devil lies in the details with planning. Can you just now apply this to your real world and figure out a consensus? And the conclave word suggests is we're not letting those group of people out until they reach consensus. What does that gain us? A, buy-in. It's not all of a sudden a sort of a top-down driven project, but secondary, and I think more importantly, we are now using the brain power of people who are actually in the day-to-day operating this model. So our really what we call ways of working, which translated for us in a day in a life, week in a life, a month in a life description of a planner, we now nailed it down with true business alignment, but still in line with that philosophy we set as a corporate team. And I think this is really working well from the buy-in. A little bit of an elaborate answer, I think, but it shows that the system, I'm positive. We're on the right track. You can always improve. The process we designed through the conclaves, but as a result, the people now very much know where to drive this to.
Interesting. Okay, as to the technology, you alluded to Kinaxis's Rapid Response. Could you tell a little bit more about the role that has played in this initiative?
I think it's safe to say, like, when we went through this process about what partner and what technology partner we should select, we were very focused about, it's not only about demand management. We're not interested in the perfect forecasting tool, nor were we interested in the best scheduler. What we were interested truly in is that end-to-end. Who can truly connect us and provide a solution technically that could connect these many, many nodes in our supply chain in a sort of a user-friendly, cloud-based system, and at the same time also is willing to help us discover some areas, what we call the user stories, that are specific. I'm the last one to say that pharma is specific, but we do have some particularities when it comes to our regulatory environment, but and also to our complexities. If you talk about vaccines, and it might be a little bit technical, but potency. Not all of the batches of vaccines have the same potency, and that means it's not predictable how much of a yield you can have. So that kind of end-to-end philosophy that Kinexus brought, together with their willingness to partner up with us and help us and them design what the next steps look like, I think work really well.
Can you give us a quick glimpse into any other supply chain optimization initiatives that are undergoing right now at Merck?
Well, I think one of the things we're already, so we're very busy at this point to truly still get to what we call the SCM modeling. So we have visibility now into our network, which is good. So that means our base foundation is there to really start transforming, optimizing the way end-to-end we operate and starting to interact not only inside of our network, but include our distributors and our contract manufacturers to really have one horizontal, completely filled out supply chain is going to be a nice, interesting challenge. On top of that, I think where we're trying to now spark and sniff out interest and do some proof of concepts is again, what I call robotic process automation. There's so much that we can do in standardized planning, having segmentation done by RPA, and even moving to the higher level of the artificial intelligence. But I think I want to re-emphasize, I think the most important thing still that faces us, we need to get our base processes installed, get the capabilities of the people up, and I'm going to use the word data. Everything hinges on data because we're becoming more and more dependent on the right data in our source systems in order for these systems to make the right decisions. So yes, we're dreaming far beyond this current implementation, but we're also very sensitive to the fact that A, we have a patient's responsibility to do it right all the time for our patients, and I think there's still a lot to gain even in those basics.
Well, it sounds like you're well along, and we wish you well on your journey. Mark, thank you so much for sharing the story of Merck and its supply chain optimization and visibility initiatives. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I've been speaking with Mark Tallons of Merck. Thank you very much for watching.